You are in command of the Enterprise. We're in a state of war, and your place is on the bridge.
In 2367, the Borg Collective would go to war with the United Federation of Planets. The Collective sent exactly one cube, just one, into the very heart of Federation space. The cube is met with a resistance of roughly 40 Starfleet ships. These vessels, crewed by both Starfleet personnel and civilians, including the families of said Starfleet personnel, would be utterly destroyed. This conflict resulted in 11,000 Federation citizens, Starfleet or otherwise, man, woman, and child, killed, missing, or assimilated. Starfleet was not prepared. The Federation was not prepared. But did this tragedy have to happen? Could they have been ready? 6 years after the conflict, the Borg attack again and are so utterly defeated, they travel back in time and use subterfuge to try and gain control of the Enterprise E and defeat the Federation when it could not defend itself, or was even formed. With that in mind, let's turn back the clock and look at what caused all of these people to be destroyed. Or perhaps, who?
You may be witnessing the start of a new era, not only for Vulcan, but for Earth as well.
Before we get too far into the minutiae of it all, I want to remind you of a previous video. It'll be in the top right-hand corner, but ultimately, the piece is to remind you of the role of the Vulcans. Before the Federation, when the United Earth initially interacts with the Vulcans, the superpower of the Alpha Quadrant was becoming more and more aggressive. Thanks to a coup assisted by the United Starfleet Captain Jonathan Archer, the standing government of the Vulcans is overthrown and a more pacifistic entity takes its place. This pacifistic government continued, if not more actively promoted, the policy of technologically hobbling the United Earth. This ensured that the humans would not be able to make technological gains that the Vulcans felt they weren't ready for. When the United Earth, Vulcan, and others joined the coalition of planets, and ultimately the aforementioned Federation, it is the Vulcans that continually call for peace and discussion versus fighting. They would use their membership as a form of blackmail against other members, and their sway to hold Starfleet back and sue for peace would be largely successful. This influence is so prevalent that the culmination of it all occurs in 2293. The destruction of Praxis meant the near annihilation of the Klingon Empire, though they might go out with a fight. The infrastructure of the entire economy and the Klingons' way of life was going to collapse. However, Captain Spock, along with strong Vulcan allies as a special envoy, pushed for peace with the long-standing enemy.
Are we talking about mothballing the Starfleet?
Well, I'm sure that our exploration and scientific programs would be unaffected, Captain.
This peace would include, but not be limited to, the demilitarization of Starfleet. The military assets were mothballed and the scientific fleet's continued operation. While an attempt to kill everyone at the signing of the Khitomer Accords only proves why this would be problematic, the red flag would be ignored and both the Klingon Empire and Starfleet began to scale down their fleets. Research into new combat ship designs, weaponry, and more would be severely limited. Starfleet's continued production of a fleet that would be used as a military against unknowns.
Starfleet is not a military organization. Its purpose is exploration.
As stated, it took only 6 years for the Federation to create weapons that could fight the Borg and be on a near-level playing ground with them after the Battle of Wolf 359. Imagine if the Federation had agreed to assist the Klingons but kept up its wartime economy. It would have had nearly 74 years to create and maintain weapons and officers that could defend against any threat, foreign or domestic, and possibly even the Borg. Perhaps a Starfleet that didn't have a mentality of being only an exploratory branch would have dealt with the collective better. Maybe Spock should have proposed two distinct organizations from each other and had Starfleet explore with a governmental entity that worked as a military asset. This is, of course, backseat driving and has the advantage of hindsight. There's no way to really know the natural evolution of Starfleet if it had not been demilitarized. But one thing is for sure. I'd have wanted to be in the room to see the face of Spock, the day he read the casualty reports from Wolf 359 and was reminded that he was the principal actor in scaling everything down, that he demilitarized the very fleet that was trying to defend him and Earth, and the fleet that was destroyed, and how, because of his actions, indirectly, all of these people, including families, were killed.